just collected some questions from my own and from fans on the internet.
Okay, lovely.
So, let's start. You started working for Egmont in 1993, I guess, when you were about 20 years old?
That's it, yeah, 93. Well, I'd been doing some storybook illustrations and, assorted whatnot, coloring covers for Garfield and other books for Sanoma, which is the publisher of Disney Comics in Finland. And I knew the editor-in-chief of Akuankka, as it's pronounced in Finnish, Jano Duck, quickly. And then Byron Eriksson and Bob Foster, who worked for Egmont Denmark, came for a visit. And I met them and showed them some of my work, and that's how I got started.
Okay. Nice. And then you immediately got to write your own comics.
Well, I showed them some of my drawings. I should say that they said no, very wisely. The drawing wasn't what it should be, but I could write stories as well. So I got to write stories right away. And I started out by doing scripts and story sketches for other people, which is a very good way to learn, because I did them for people like Vika and Branka. And when you see, your childish sketches being sent to Branka, and when they come back, you've got no hope at all. But then a few years later, I got to draw some of my own stuff as well. I think 95 was were the first stories that I both wrote and drew, and little by little.
Nice. So, can you tell us a bit about the stories you're currently working on? What do you have on your table at the moment?
Well, I'm actually, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell this. There is a secret. No, I'm doing, I can tell you what I just finished. I did a Easter story for next year, and a winter story that's coming out in February. Those are the last two stories that I finished drawing. But there's loads of stories that I've written, and I should get on with it. Try and finish them as well.
Yeah. So I saw that some of your newest comics have a D/Sun production code. So it's obviously a co-production between Egmont and Sanoma.
Yeah, that's right. Those stories are specially ordered by the Finnish publishers, like the Christmas story was. That was published here in the Christmas book now.
Yeah.
That was originally ordered for the Finnish market, and but they get published elsewhere as well. It's to do with keeping track of the stories within the company, the code.
Okay, so it was practically Sanoma ordered them specifically for their own publications.
For the own publications, we do about they do about a story a year that's specifically Finnish.
So why did that have to go over Egmont? Couldn't you just do it for them themselves?
Well, Egmont has the production rights for Disney Comics, as do the Italians and the Dutch. So Sanoma orders all of their material from Egmont.
So it had to be centralized.
Yeah, that's right.
So some of your stories were reused when Egmont did those manga-style comics. They had some for the Japanese market. I think it was 2 of your comics following Clue, and what about 65? What did you think of that? Did they inform you when they did that?
No, they didn't. Or they did afterwards, Byron Eriksson, who was in charge of doing the whole manga project, he did tell me that he's chosen a couple of my stories. And I've seen the Gyro story following Glue.
Glue, yeah.
I haven't got a clue about it, but yeah. I did see it, and it's really fun to see. First of all, Miguel did the artwork for those, and he's a wonderful artist. But then the script as well, how it's padded up. I mean, I think the original story was 6 pages or something, and suddenly it's 15.
Yeah.
Because of the different layout for the pages and following the manga style. So, interesting.
Now I have a question from a fan. He read the Kari Korhonen special.
Oh my.
And he says that the story he found the most memorable in it was A New Feeling. I think it's the last one in there.
Oh yes, indeed, the Vicar.
And
Yes. Good
so
grief.
the story is about that Magica turns into Daisy so she can get closer to Donald and
Right.
to the number 1 guy. But then she actually starts like dating Donald and she forgets about her original goal. So
Weird.
it's obviously a great fan fiction story. When and how did you get that idea? And are you planning on writing more stories like this?
I mean, I like writing for Daisy, for the simple reason that I don't like her very much. She's quite an awful person, or a duck. I mean, fooling about with 2 ducks, Donald and Gladstone all the time. So whenever Daisy is involved, although in this case it seems to be Magica who falls in love, whenever Daisy has to make a choice between Donald and something or someone else, that's always fun. So yeah, I'd love to write some more Daisy stories. I have no recollection of how this came about. I'm turning into old Vicar because whenever somebody asks Vicar what are his favorite stories, he always mentions the last 3 he's done. But I remember that this was during the time that the Titanic movie either came out or something, or I'd just seen it. Because the Titanic was in my sketches as well. God, I hated that film. But yeah, actually Vicar said that he liked the story, which makes me very happy. And he said that because of my name, it's a girl's name almost everywhere. This was one of the first stories it can't be. Yeah, he thought I was a girl because I'd written a story like this. So imagine his amazement when the ugliest man in the world showed up at an Egmont meeting. He's a lovely man.
So, but when it's like a fan fiction story when Magica kind of falls for Donald. So what are your own limits to that kind of stuff, and what are Disney's limits? So how far could such a story go?
That's a very difficult question. Well, writing for Donald and Daisy and all the family, I mean, basic rule of thumb is that it's like writing a sitcom.
Yeah.
Everything has to be as it was at the beginning, at the end of the story. So everything has to be back to basics.
Yeah.
You know, Donald can't end up rich at the end of the story, and we're gonna follow that line. Other than that, I don't know. And I mean, in this one, it's a bit of an afterthought with Magica. You know,
Yeah.
maybe this one-track mind that she has isn't the best thing. You know, there are other things in life than trying to steal one coin. So you certainly can do that, and that's fun to do. I've done that with Scrooge as well, where Scrooge sort of experiences something other than the money and getting more of it, and that makes his life somehow more interesting. Yeah. Richer, very good. Oh God, yeah, well done.
And another fun question, how do you get the ideas for your Donnie Duck stories from Donald's childhood? Are those partly based on your own experiences and memories?
No, I didn't live on a farm with my grandmother. I've never been to a farm. But, well, it's an interesting project because it came from Italy, as I think you know. Excuse me. And in 1999, when they started producing these stories, I was asked if I'd like to do these little Donnie stories, and I wasn't that interested because it's never really a good thing to show a beloved character like Donald in another age. Nobody really thinks that the Young Flintstones is the greatest animated series ever made. So, but then I started thinking about
Muppet Babies.
Yeah, Muppet Babies, another great example. But then I started thinking about Little Donnie as a completely separate character. You know, it is Donald, but it is also a little boy, you know, raising hell in a scenic landscape, and that makes it easier. And I started enjoying it very much. Now we've done maybe 50, or I've done maybe 50 stories altogether, and it's always good fun. Where do I get the ideas? I don't know. No, not my own experience. It's not really. It helps to watch Little House on the Prairie and steal as many ideas as you can. It's my childhood favorite, the show. So, no, not stealing. I didn't just admit to that, but
Getting inspired.
yeah, and also because there is a distinct group of characters that aren't in the universe of today as we know it, and it was a decision that was made because the Italians did use Scrooge in some of their Little Donnie stories, and even young Gladstone, and we didn't want to do that. We just wanted to keep it in a small universe in and of itself, and I think that works better. Not to bring the Duckburg of today into those stories, and I don't know, we're still doing them, so
it's kind of like a parallel universe. A bit.
Not really, but you don't have to have read Donald's stories. I mean, even if you picked up, there isn't a collection of Little Donnie, but if you picked one up, you could enjoy them even if you didn't know who Donald Duck is. So that is the idea of it.
So, your Grandma Duck Mysteries stories is one fan thinks they're really great, and he wonders if you were inspired by Miss Marple when you created those.
Yes, of course. I mean, I've read just about. I'm a big detective story fan, so in my younger years I did read all the Christies. Although I do prefer Mr. Poirot, but it's a good way to use Grandma Duck. Whether it works or not, I'm afraid there's at least one fan, but they're fun to do. They're like writing the little riddles that you see for Mickey, but do it in 8 pages. And now we've done, at Egmon's, we've done, I think, 5 stories altogether. 3 of them have been published, I think. And we'll see how it goes. Hopefully there are some more.
Let's wait and see.
What was the question? I forgot. I rambled on.
Just if you were inspired by Miss Marple.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Not the. Joan Hickson is the only right Miss Marple for me from the movies.
Okay.
The actress Joan Hickson. Not the others so much.
Not
I love her, but she's not Miss Marple. I mean, it's a completely different character. But who doesn't love Margaret Rutherford? I mean, bless her.
So you've also written quite a few stories starring Disney movie characters like Simba or Jiminy Cricket or Winnie the Pooh. What's your own favorite animated Disney film?
Well, it has to be just because I was the right age when it came out, The Rescuers.
Ah, okay.
And yet, still, when I compare that with the others, that was a wonderful time at the Disney studio. Well, they were sort of struggling, but all the old master animators were still working. Well, all of the ones who were still alive and kicking. That was just before they retired, so the animation is extraordinarily beautiful, through and through. There's Milt Kahl and Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson, and they're doing what they do best, what they've learned over 50 years of sitting behind a desk. So it looks beautiful, and the story is very good too. Very moving. I just watched it with the children of a friend of mine, and I was the only one crying because of little Penny. So that's very good, and 101 Dalmatians is a very sound, very solid story. And the style, I just love it because they moved from doing using the Xerox machine for the inking of the celluloids. So it's a sort of rough, sort of sketchy look.
That Cruella de Vil tune at the beginning, you can't get it out.
No, that's true. That's true. Absolutely. Come on, sing it for us then.
Cruella de Vil, Cruella de Vil.
It's good. Yeah, but that's a beautiful movie.
So, another question. In some of your stories, the usual supporting characters are the stars. Like in Do Credit, it's Chief O'Hara, or in Easy Money, it's Gus Goose. And you're also doing sometimes Pluto stories. How difficult is it to write stories without the regular main characters? And how does Egmont like such stories?
Well, it helped if I remembered those stories. Yeah, I do remember the Chief O'Hara one. Some of them are particularly ordered. You know, do a 6-pager with a supporting character, and I think it's rather fun. I mean, I think Chief O'Hara is much more interesting than Mickey Mouse. But did I just say that?
We didn't hear.
Okay, yeah, but he is. So it's fun, you know. Sometimes when you write a regular story with the standard characters, I like to imagine a whole backstory for the secondary characters as well. So if there's a guy, you know, a chef, whatever, you know, a lorry driver. So I imagine, you know, what is he like? You know, who is he at home? Does he have wife and children? That sort of thing. And sometimes it's interesting to go that way. You know, but always the action does come in the stories where the secondary character takes sort of a central stage. The motivation for the action is the character, the standard character. Like, let's say with Scrooge, it might be a story with Scrooge meeting somebody, and we see a lot of the other guy in the background, but whatever he does is because of what Scrooge is. I don't know if this makes any sense, but
I think so.
Yeah.
So, that's a good bridge to the next question, because this is another fan's question. Your story, The Cover Joe's, is basically Karl Barks' sequel, because it has this character Joe, the diner owner, who appeared in some Barks one-pagers. And what do you think about those kinds of sequels in general? Are they kind of preserving Barks' ideas, or are they ripping off the original?
They're terrible. Nobody should do them. No, really. I mean, with that story, it was just about a cafe owner. And because I remembered the one-pagers, I chose him to be the one. So it came out of the cafe where I had my morning coffee, where all the waitresses and the owner were sick and tired of all the young kids ordering the one cup of coffee and staying there and talking for 3 hours and keeping the tables busy. They could have very well thrown them out. They were paying customers. So that sounded to me like a Scrooge situation. So yeah, then I needed a cafe owner, and then there was Joe. I don't know if he was named in the story, in the box stories.
I don't know.
Can't remember. Might have been, but you know. So that's how that came about.
Okay. So you're from Finland.
Mm-hmm.
How do you explain the enormous popularity of Aku Anka, Donald Duck in Finland?
They're nuts. I don't know.
Is it
Well-
still the most sold magazine?
Yeah, it is. It's 315,000 copies every week or something. But there are a few reasons for it. The biggest one, of course, is that the Finnish publishers are very loyal to the. They do a very good job, in particular, in keeping the tradition of publishing just the comics, basically, and doing wonderful translations, etc., and having editorial pages, and keeping it sort of in a wonderful balance of being serving the fans and letting the book be all about comics. But another thing is that in Finland, magazines in general, the situation is very different from elsewhere in Europe, because most magazines are sold in subscriptions. And when people have a long tradition, as it is now in Finland, 60 years of subscribing to a magazine, they order it for their children and grandchildren and so forth and so forth. So that might be one of the reasons as well. Plus, I think the magazine, not because I'm doing stories for it, quite the reverse, but otherwise it looks wonderful now. It looks as good as it was in the 50s when Parks and others were working on it. So
are you recognized in Finland when you walk across the street?
No, good God, no, thank God. No.
Because Don Rosa always tells me that he's recognized everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So he's like a national hero?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you should see the lines at bookstores.
Yeah, I saw some videos on YouTube. It's about 3 kilometers of lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he's coming over in about a month.
Did that happen because of the Kalevala story, or was he even popular before?
Well, that was a big part of it, but he was popular before and of course after.
Yeah.
He's a huge success.
And even now, after he's finished.
Yeah, retired.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's made signing tours, I think, in Finland.
Yeah.
Many of them, I believe, after he stopped producing new stories, which is great, because for the magazine and its popularity still, that he does that.
So would you yourself like to do something like a Kalevala story with some traditional Finnish background? If there's
Well,
something
the
else.
Kalevala was very good and Don stole it, so I can't do that anymore. The stories that we do once a year for the magazine that we talked about earlier, they usually have a very specific theme for the story. They're just 10 or 12-page lead stories.
I think one was about a Finnish play.
That's right, yeah. That was Alexis Kivi, who was one of our national authors, one of his famous plays, and that was turned into a Donald Duck story. So I do a story a year with a Finnish theme. Now there's a story about the Finnish composer Sibelius coming up. It's been drawn about a year ago, but it's coming out now because it's an anniversary of his birth or death or something. So once a year I do that. I heard that the story that you mentioned about the play, that was published in German as well.
It was adapted to a German play.
Yes, and how the heck does that work? But well done. My God, how interesting.
But it was adapted to classic German play that's really popular and played in all the local theaters, and yeah, it seems to
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Great. Sounds wonderful.
So that's it. And
Thank
maybe
you.
you can give the fans some greetings to finish.
In Finnish or to finish?
No, to finish the interview.
Oh, to finish the interview. Okay. Hello. Thank you for watching this. I'm sorry.